You're gonna start watching hockey?
Yeah. Well, our problem is I kind of fell into quite a nice routine, which was on a Sunday after we'd sorted everything out and everything was fine. It was kind of like my personal relaxation. Was that what I would do is I would start at about 1:00, just after I'd have some Sunday lunch, and that was about when the Formula One would start.
Yeah.
And the Formula One would run me through to about 5:30, at which point the NFL had started, and I'd watch the NFL game to about 9:30, and then I'd have a bubble bath, and then I'd go to bed. It was pretty good.
It's not bad, but now there's none of that.
No, and then Monday morning I listened to whatever podcast was going on the way to work, and it was my routine, and that was my me time. But now, because the NFL is obviously stopped and Formula One has stopped, I just kind of sit there and go,
Sunday.
sport. Sport.
Well, the thing about the
Okay.
NHL is that there's not a whole lot of games on a Sunday.
Oh.
And most Canadian teams don't play on a Sunday afternoon. So you're probably going to end up watching like Boston, New Jersey
I can watch
or
highlights.
something.
I can watch highlights. The problem as well is that for some reason unknown to anyone, the Six Nations, which is a game between 6 European rugby teams, the first game started at like 10:30.
In the morning?
Yeah. On a Sunday.
Who wants to play rugby at 10:30 a.m., let alone watch it?
I don't know. I mean, the first problem was that it was England-Italy, which is relatively pointless to watch.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was last Sunday?
Yeah, we beat them something ridiculous, like 46-7.
Right.
It was just pointless. So I didn't watch that. But yeah, something to fill my Sundays.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would do highlights then, because what you can do is you'll get all the highlights from Hockey Night in Canada Saturday night on a Sunday.
That works.
So you get all that.
We're not going to talk about how civilized I am being with my Friday night drinking.
Yeah, it's very nice. What is that? What have you got there?
It's a Negroni.
Ah,
it's very nice.
Kyle made me a because we're in the red zone again, so we're able to visit limited people. So I went to see Kyle after not having seen him for a long time, and he made a gin soda and grapefruit. I think it was very fruity. It was lovely.
It's very nice.
Yeah,
this is very. Nice. It's like very refreshing and orangey and stuff like that.
But you know what I hate though? We had spring rolls and they were too hot though.
Oh yeah.
And even but I waited because Kyle incinerated his mouth.
Yeah.
Because he ate it right away, and I was like, "You are insane!" And he literally couldn't swallow. It was so hot.
Did I tell you? I was
like, I'm gonna wait a while.
Oh, fair enough. Did I tell you about the most stressful experience of my life?
No, not yet. But I waited and then ate one, and I still burnt my tongue. And isn't burning your tongue just the most annoying thing in the world?
Oh, it sucks.
It's
the same as biting the inside of your lip. It's just one of those things where your body's just betrayed you.
Yeah, and it's like your tongue just it feels like there's something there.
And
it's bleh, bleh, bleh. Yeah. That's what it feels like. It's the worst. So annoying. Go with yours, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, so obviously in the UK at the moment, very different situation to Canada. We can't go and see anyone. We have bubbles, which means that Belle, because I'm not going to see anyone, Belle is a bubble with her family, so Belle can go and see her family. That's fine.
We do still have bubbles. Just a side note.
Okay.
Kyle's
well, if I'm honest with you, Jared, I'm hardly paying attention to the UK's COVID restrictions because I'm still going to work and I have to do what I have to do.
Kyle's in my bubble, but yes.
Yes. But I wanted to still put on a good show for Valentine's Day. Now, normally for Valentine's Day, me and Belle would either go and have a nice meal or order something in or something like that. Now, what we like to do quite often is we'll find some eatery or restaurant or something like that in London, which is mildly like it's street food, but like really nice street food. So like we'll go, in the past we've gone and got really nice donuts and then tried some sushi at a nice restaurant and stuff like that. We try a couple of different places and we couldn't do that. So I saw this thing, which was a pizza in the post thing from a company called Pizza Pilgrims. They're a restaurant in London where two guys, I wholly endorse the kit, but two guys basically learnt how to make pizza in Italy and then came back. Now, what they do is they send you a box with dough and then all the ingredients that you need to make a pizza. Great. My first mistake, Jared, was that the dough and everything else in the box had a number above it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, I just thought, don't know what that does, but we weren't having it until the Sunday, and it arrived on the Friday. So I took everything out and put it in the freezer so that it would stay cool.
Mm-hmm.
Threw the boxes away.
Mm-hmm.
This will come important later. The first thing that you have to do is you have to stretch out your own pizza dough.
Right.
Which is difficult because it's a springy dough, and I worked this piece of dough until I was sweaty in the face, until it was vaguely pizza shaped, and did the thing where you put it over your arms and felt very chefy, and I was very, very
did you
proud
spin
of
it and everything?
Yeah, did all that. There's still pizza on the ceiling.
He's an Italian now.
But it then says, put a pan on the hob as hot as you can.
Okay.
Right? Then transfer the dough into the pan and stretch it out into the pan. So this pan is red hot. And you've got to put a pizza in it, which is difficult in itself because a pizza dough isn't really a cooperative piece of equipment.
No.
It doesn't want to go into a pan. It's like... and you're like, in the pan!
All over the place.
Yeah. And then you put it in and you have to go, right, I now have to stretch this out with my fingers. And you're like stretching it out. And that was the most stressful bit because you're like, once you get it in the pan, it always folds over a little bit. And you're like, oh, that's shit. I got to try and get that out. And then basically it lets you push it out enough that you go, oh, it's not hot yet. I can keep working. And then you don't pay attention and you burn your hands.
Ow.
Because there were two things. Either what happened to Belle happened when she tried to do it, which was she was stretching it and she caught the inside of her wrist on the outside of the pan. Or what happened to me happens, which is you're stretching the pizza vigorously and you put your fingers through the pizza dough and just poke the bottom of the pan.
Mm.
And then you go, fuck. And then the next problem happened, which is I then turned to the thing and went, right, I've got some cheese, I've got some pepperoni, I've got some chili honey, and I've got some other things to go on this pizza. What order do I do to put them on? And then read the instructions, and the instructions say, put the ingredients on the pizza in the order they're numbered in the box.
Uh-huh.
To which I went, shit.
Yeah.
So I just put them all on at once because then I definitely got it wrong. It was quite nice. It was very nice, but it was equally quite stressful because I thought I want to get this right because I want to be romantic and nice, but also less stressful.
Well, I think you need some better luck next week or next year, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe next year
in your pizza endeavors. Well, welcome to Better Luck Next Week, everyone.
How long was
we
I
are back once again. Later on in the show, we'll have the quiz master returning once again. But I think we wanted to do some lighthearted stories to begin the show because we have not a very lighthearted story to discuss at the beginning, and because we wanted to get it over with. But there was an article posted on The Athletic, and everyone in the hockey world is talking about this now in the NHL. And I think this might end up, if it hasn't already, becoming one of the biggest stories in sports. And it's dysfunction in the desert, finger pointing, fear, and financial woes roil the Coyotes organization by Katie Strang. And if you have an Athletic subscription and you haven't read it yet, by all means, you should, or find a friend who has it and they can give you a free pass for 30 days, which is what I've done with Gavin.
Yes, thank you.
And basically this article, I've always been like, oh, I really want to subscribe to The Athletic, but it's like, it's another subscription, like, because everything's subscription now, right? Netflix, Amazon, everything's subscription.
The problem is as well, it's so low in money that you kind of like, with Netflix, you go, oh, it's £5 a month or $5 a month. Yeah, I'll do that. And then you do Amazon Prime, and before you know it, you're paying £50 a month, and you're like,
yeah, for like 8 different subscriptions, and you're like, well, can I justify having all these? The thing about The Athletic is it's possibly, if not the best, sports in-depth site in the world, in my opinion. And this article is a prime example of that. Katie Strang reported this. I listened to an interview with her on the Steve Dangle podcast last night, basically. And she was talking about how this had been in development for months. And every time she thought about posting it, she ended up having something else come out, or she picked up a new nugget of information and was like, oh, well, I need to put that in there. And it just kind of kept becoming this bigger and bigger article, to the point where now it's finally out, and it's pretty incredible. I don't want to go through it in the sense of break it down individually, because that would take away from the writing of the article. But basically, it talks about several examples of misdemeanor haggling over debts to be paid by the organization to their arena rent, their arena lease with the city, various vendors, all sorts of other avenues.
The thing for me that I question about this, and there's multiple things, but the thing on that particular point is they are quite regularly, from what it seems, doing a thing where someone will send them an invoice, they won't pay it, and then the person will go pay the invoice, and they'll go, okay, but we're going to argue everything on this invoice.
Right. Can we pay less of this invoice because we're in a what am I trying to say? We're in a jam, right?
Yeah. But it's not even. But the thing, the bit that I struggle with that is that if you walk up to someone and whole-facedly honest and go, look, I know that this is how much you normally charge for your services or something like that, but at the moment we can't afford that. And they then go, okay, fine, we will still provide you the normal service, but you just pay a little bit less, or figure out a deal or something like that. But it's the after the fact.
And it's the problem after with that the fact, and then on top of that, some of these people, vendors, whatever their association with the organization was, were then had their contracts terminated.
Yeah.
It was like, we're only going to pay you 80% of the debt we owe you, and then not use your service anymore. So you're just out the 10% of the money that we didn't pay you.
The problem for me with this is that if you are a big company like Dell or Hewlett Packard or someone like that, or Cadbury's Chocolate, who are massive.
Yeah.
One company not paying your invoice, you can sit and hold on to that, and you can go, cool, we'll fight this out in court for months. But if you're a small pizza joint or something like that, or like one of the people that works at the stadium and that provides a service at the stadium, and they say, we're not going to pay you, you've got overheads. And the problem is that they can drag that out for as long as possible. And at a certain point, financially, you will just have to say yes, because otherwise your business will be buried.
Right. And you still need that percentage of the money that you're going to get.
Yeah.
Even though it's not going to cover everything, you still need something. So you eventually go, okay, fine. And that's what's happened with a lot of these vendors. And that's just a small...
Yeah. You've got employees to pay. You've got people to feed.
Yeah.
You've got to go, yeah, sure, fine.
Right. And that's just a small tidbit of this whole story.
There is one bit that I want to question.
Yeah.
And I brought this up before the podcast, and I'm obviously not going to say exactly what I said before the podcast. But there are some things here that financially I question. Now, at a certain point in his life, I can understand and I can go, cool. He had a decent amount of money at the age of 18. And I'll go into how he got it earlier, because that's where my question lies. But he was then able to buy a pizza restaurant, and then that pizza restaurant then made enough money that he then was able to buy another one, and then he franchised out. Now, that to me, I have no problem with, because that's a common success story. That is someone who started a business and then was smart enough with the money and the profits that were coming off of that business that they made another one. I mean, it's actually in Chelmsford, where I'm originally from. There is a pub that was called the Ale House, and the owner basically lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, didn't have much overheads, and ran it for a year, and then took the profits of it and bought another one and called it the Ale House 2.
Yeah.
And he put it far enough away from the other one, it didn't infect his customers, and then he had another one. And I think he's going to do a third one at some point. So that I don't have question with. The problem for me is that at a certain point, he got to a point where it was too much for him to manage on his own, which happens with every person in business. But he went, right, I need to employ some people. And what he did was he employed some people that were probably very good in their individual industries and had gone on a marketing or management course, which we all get sent on at some point in our lives, and basically get fed bollocks for 2 days about this is how you manage people and blah, 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 blah. And anyone with almost a shred of intelligence, when your manager is doing that to you, you sit there and go, I know exactly what you're trying to do, and it's not going to fucking work.
Yeah.
It might just be me because I'm a petulant child. But
could be a factor.
That in a pizza industry or a small business or like a shop where you sell tiles or a shop where you sell phones, the management style for that place is pretty transversable. If you've got managers that can run a pizza place pretty well, you've got a manager you could transplant into a tile place and he'd do pretty well. Because at the end of the day, you're managing people, not the product.
Right.
But that doesn't work for everything. So what he's done is he's taken his managers that were very, very good and probably sat in a meeting with them and gone, I want to buy a hockey team. And in these people, instead of going, well, none of us know how to run a hockey team.
Yeah, none of us know anything about hockey.
Instead of that, he's probably, as unfortunately a lot of these people that have made a lot of money, surrounded by yes men who have gone, yes, we can do that. And then they've got into it and realized that a hockey team is not the same as a pizza restaurant.
Well, on top of that, they haven't even had that realization yet, because they're still trying to run a hockey team like a pizza franchise.
Yeah.
And his son is very involved in hockey operations that he, according to this article, he does not understand. And
makes people call him Mr. something.
Yeah, his father, this Alex Morello Sr., makes people call him Mr. Morello, which is fine, I guess. But I mean, it's not
I've taken a shit in Mr. Morello.
Yeah, it's not the 40s.
No, and that to me is just like a lordosis and kind of astute of grandeur kind of problem. Which, I mean, brings me back to a point. At the age of 16, he got a job selling bow ties. Now, you can say it was a tuxedo.
It was a tuxedo shop, so he was probably a tailor.
No, tailoring is
assistant or something like that.
Tailoring is a 10-year thing. To become a tailor takes a long time.
Tailor's assistant, then.
Even that. Either way, either way.
I'm just trying to justify the number that you're about to say.
He was earning $33,000 in today's money. I've used inflation, people. In today's money, he was earning $33,000 a month.
Estimated allegedly.
Estimated allegedly. So that means yearly he was bringing home within the realms of $400,000 a year.
With
at
inflation.
16. Someone explain to me that, because at the age of 16, the job you do is, unless you are immediately talented at some sport or something like that, or you've got a family friend or something like that, at the age of 16, you have no skills. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you
not
might be
really.
good at things. You might have some natural talent with some things, but you have no skills. You earn minimum wage, or if you're lucky and you've, a hockey referee or something like that, where it's a bit of rarity, you might earn a bit more.
Yeah.
But that amount of money at 16?
It is a lot. And
it's fishy to me. It just doesn't add up.
And it's one of the many fishy things that get brought up in this article. And we won't go into much more detail about it, but because
it's just weird.
It's very long and it's a very good read. And again, if you have the opportunity to, you absolutely should, because the Arizona Coyotes then put out a statement afterwards about it, basically saying that the reporting of this article was problematic, that
really
she had that Katie Strang was using unreliable and disgruntled sources that are all former employees, which is false, because she has current employees. She spoke to over 50 people. It wasn't like 5 angry people that were like, I got fired and I don't like the Coyotes anymore. She's spoken to other executives. She's spoken to the current general manager, who was also not very nice to her. I mean, she has personally been mistreated in the reporting and posting of this article, and it's the statement is basically nothing but a cover-up job by the Arizona Coyotes, and it's really just pretty despicable. To when you look at everything. Let me see if I can just pull it up here from their Twitter, because they only released it a few days ago, and it just continues a philosophy of bad to worse.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is a organization reacting to something. This is the same thing. And I know you've got other things to say, but this will lead us on to our next subject, of the fact that JJ posted about his own releasing before the Houston Texas got to it. He was the one that basically said, look, I'm leaving Texas. Bye.
Right.
Instead of the Houston Texans being able to publish them themselves, which I'm just a bit like, oh. Wait, we'll finish what you were saying first. Sorry.
Well, I'm having a hard time bringing up exactly the statement. But I mean, it's just full of, oh, here it is. So the Arizona Coyotes issued this following statement that I won't read the whole thing because it's quite long, but it basically says, we are very disappointed that the Athletic for several months has condoned a harassment campaign against Mr. Alex Morello, the Arizona Coyotes, the Morello Group, and dozens of current employees and former employees. We question the potential reliance by the Athletic on disgruntled ex-employees who have proven to be untrustworthy and lacking in candor or confidential non-public information, and on vendors with whom the club secured negotiated settlements to undo years of financial mismanagement under prior ownership and club leadership. We're very disappointed that the Athletic has chosen to overlook the massive investment that Mr. Morello has made during an economic downturn into the hockey operations department of the Coyotes for hiring all kinds of good people and, so on and so forth. Additionally, the Athletic has completely disregarded the commitment Mr. Morello has made to position the Coyotes as a well-respected community leader, as a recognized benefactor of youth hockey and a champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it continues to go on and basically say all the good things that Mr. Morello has done, and look at how great of a person he is, and so on.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like the PR person was typing that out with Mr. Morello stood over them watching them type.
Right.
So make me sound nicer. Make me sound nicer.
Yeah. Don't forget this thing that I did.
Yeah.
So
tell them about those orphans that I pulled from a fire. But Mr. Morello, that didn't happen. Do it yourself.
So the NHL has declined to comment so far. That's the only comment that the Arizona Coyotes have made. They've inferred that they're going to pursue legal action. And this happens a lot when big stories come out about franchises, people, organizations that they're going to sue.
It's okay, mate. We're gonna play act how that's gonna go, right?
Yeah.
You be the Coyotes coming to a lawyer.
Okay.
And asking about this. Ready? And scene.
Sir, we've been accused of bad things. Can you help us?
No. Sorry, that is an open shut case.
Yeah. There's been threats made by Coyotes management that these alleged whistleblowers, the sources of Katie, are going to be jailed for doing this, among many other things. So it's just a dumpster fire it's a tire fire in a dumpster on a train driving off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I've said this for years about this organization in general, is that they're so irrelevant.
I don't know much about Canadian or American law, but I can tell you three things. And that me knowing that this is not going to be a substantial legal argument is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
One, freedom to the right of the press, which means she can write whatever she wants about you. Two, the right to anonymity, which is that if you include a quote from a person in an article and you write it from anonymous,
yeah,
you cannot legally ask those people to come forward.
Which is what most of people are quoted as in the article. They're quoted as a employee, a former employee.
Yeah. And as a company, if you then go after said anonymous whistleblowers and go on a witch hunt, which is the official term for it, even if you find these people, if you then persecute and or fire them for it, you can be sued to kingdom come because they anonymously leaked information. And in the UK, if you whistleblow about a company and your company is doing something wrong, there is nothing that your employer can do for you. You are basically bulletproof.
Right.
Because if they fire you, you can then go, they fired me because of this.
Yeah. And there's a lot of alleged misdemeanors going on with the Arizona Coyotes. And I've said this for a long time. I don't understand why this franchise exists. They've never been relevant in their entire existence. The most relevance they've ever had was when Shane Doan played for them. And outside of that, the most relevance they've had since Shane Doan retired was when Auston Matthews mentioned that the Coyotes were what inspired him to play hockey because he's from Phoenix, Arizona. Other than that, they barely make the playoffs. People's careers go to die there because players get acquired by the Coyotes and then they just tank to hell.
My favorite one that I looked at when they said it and I went, really? You consider that an achievement? Was that they said that they had Spanish speaking and Spanish posting social media accounts. If you are a team that exists in the world where the population of the area that you're in is 50% Spanish or Latin speaking, and you don't have a Spanish Instagram account, you're a fucking idiot.
Well, and I will not diminish the fact that this management group and this ownership group is the first, Latino management or ownership group in the NHL, the first Latin, the first Latin CEO and president, and that's all good stuff. But it's looking more and more like these were not the people that should have been the first. And, so just have a look at this article if you can, when you can, because I think this is going to be a developing story over the coming months. And I would be curious as to whether or not the rest of the owners around the league start to go, maybe you need to sell the team. Perhaps. We'll see. Or they ask to move the team or whatnot. But that remains to be seen. What doesn't remain to be seen is McLaren's new Formula One car.
Yes.
And it was not a spectacle to miss.
Which Jared missed it. I want that known. That I messaged Jared and said, this thing is publicly available, very easy to watch and very funny.
I saw the highlights.
And he saw the highlights. The thing that I will comment, because with the best will in the world, a car that has a new engine in it that, from how it sounds, has been shoehorned in, that can't change from... Like, none of the cars are going to be much different. Like, Mercedes and a couple of others aren't even doing an announcement of their car because the car is exactly the same as last year's car. But it was good from McLaren. There were a few choices that I went, what? The first of which being that for some unknown reason that they made Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris drive 50 feet in two McLarens to park up and then sit in a chair, which I was like...
Did you know that we're McLaren, guys?
Did you know that we're McLaren? The car looks good from how it looks and stuff like that.
Well, because this is the most different car on the circuit.
It's the most different car on the circuit. Lando and Danny look to have a healthy relationship at the moment. They clearly have spent some time together and don't hate each other. There's a lot of people that want them to be the Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris bromance from day one. I think these two are going to get along. They got along before they were in a team together. I think McLaren are very good at making sure that teammates don't squabble. But it would develop. I think these two are going to be very competitive, and I think that's beneficial. I do have to reveal some insider information. So, as every other team is allowed to, the media want driving shots of the car. So McLaren were allowed for Friday, so this Friday, to drive the car around Silverstone Circuit as long as it was in the camera lens and camera view of a chase car, which was a Audi Q7 with a camera mounted on the roof. I was talking to someone that works at Silverstone, and they reported that they have never seen an Audi Q7 move quite so quickly. Because the problem with it being a chase car, what this is meant to do is it's meant to make it so that the team can't basically use this as a test session because they can't go, oh, we're taking photos of the car. They can do some fast acceleration and some skids out of corners and stuff like that. But basically, it's meant to be, here's them driving the car around, here's some videos. It's for video. They take as much data as they can. And I think the way this was split, that Lando did about 15 kilometers and Daniel did, I think, the other 35 to get more used to the car. But from how it sounds, and from, I haven't got any pictures yet. I think someone's going to try and get some tonight. This Audi was stripped completely clean of any weight and had a professional racing driver at the wheel.
And it's gone.
It's gone because Daniel Ricciardo wanted to get used to his Formula One car, and the filming car had to keep up.
Oh my God.
The other bit that I find as well was that the drone that they used to film the drone shots of the car was a drone racing league drone.
Oh my God. So it's whipping around in the air too.
The guys that turned up to do the drone filming had Drone Racing League on their t-shirts.
Oh my God.
So no team can obviously say anything about this because everyone will do the same thing. But it is hilarious to me that McLaren have gone, we're going to do media day, and then got the fastest person they can to go out and test the car.
Yeah. It's fun media day.
On some good news and some happy news before we move on to the realm of dumb, which we're going to have to discuss after this.
Also known as the realm of the NFL.
Yeah. Romain Grosjean recently said in an interview that he has signed a deal with Peugeot Le Mans team to be a full-time part of their Le Mans effort. He's now living in the States. He recently won the Daytona 24 Hours as part of another team and has basically said he doesn't want to come back to F1. He's having too much fun. There's a few clips of him online racing in LMP1, and it is quite clear the man can drive because he put the spanking on some of the best Americans in the world. And when I put a spanking on, the leader after 4 hours of the Daytona 24 Hours was 20 seconds up the road when he got in the car. Within 2 hours, he'd caught him. He then overtook him, got overtaken on a dodgy restart, and then overtook him again. And then in the final hour of his 4 hour stint, then put 30 seconds on this guy, who was the best American driver they could find. And then basically...
That's why there's no Americans in Formula One.
It was a spanking.
Sorry.
Best part about it was that the first time, part of it is he goes down at Daytona, you go around the banking and you're doing about 200 miles an hour and you dive into this 90-degree left-hand turn and no one would overtake on it. And everyone went, no one can overtake there because they're braking from 200 mile an hour. And Kevin Magnussen went, watch me. And basically sent a move down the inside that everyone went, oh, F1 guy, never going to know how to overtake there. You can't overtake there. And then the next lap got it done. And then everyone went, oh, that's such a fluke move, such a fluke move. So to prove the point, when he got overtaken on the restart, which I don't understand this restart, right? So the cars are going around next to each other. And then the guy in second is here. The guy in first is here. And the pace car pulls out the way. And as soon as the pace car indicates off, you can go, apparently. But the problem with that is that the pace car was sat here in front of the guy in second place.
Right.
And as he indicated, he drove in front of Kevin Magnussen to get out the way, which meant Kevin Magnussen was like, well, I don't want to drive into the back of the pace car, so I'm going to have to and the guy in second just flew off.
Right.
To which Kevin Magnussen then did the same move in the same place again. And then the commentators went, well, apparently you can overtake there now.
It's almost like F1 drivers are good at it.
Yeah, really good. In other news, Haas related, Romain Grosjean has announced that he will be racing in Indycar this year. Prior to an agreement before his incident with obviously his horrific crash at the end of last year. He was going to be committed to a full season of IndyCar, but a kind of agreement between himself and the team is that this year he is only going to race the circuits. The only kind of oval track he will race is the Daytona 500, because that is it's kind of, he has to do it to be able to race in IndyCar. You can't race in the IndyCar season and not do the Daytona 500.
Right.
It's part of it. The other races he can kind of pick and choose, but I think that this is a good thing for Roman. In open discussion, he's been very frank about the fact that he said, look, after my crash and the dangers recently of oval racing, he said he's put his family in a position before where he was lucky to escape, and he doesn't feel happy putting them back in that position a couple of months later, which I can completely understand. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just good to see that two guys that have been have left F1 are doing well. The next person I'll be excited to see how well Alex Albon does in GT3, because I think he's very talented, and I want him to show how good he can be.
Well, and I think Alex Albon has the potential to be back as well, depending on how things kind of develop. I mean, Fernando Alonso's not. Fernando Alonso's return is cool, but he's not going to be here for 10 years. So
no, there will be a slot. I don't think Alex's career is over.
Well, and speaking of somebody else whose career, I mean, I don't know, maybe should be over. You could argue it's already over. Is Carson Wentz?
You're trying to ease into this.
I am.
Dumb move.
It is. It really is. The Colts lost Phillip Rivers, who announced his retirement.
Yep.
And so to fill the hole, the massive hole that Phillip Rivers has left, because let's be honest, Phillip Rivers was a good enough quarterback to make that team good.
Yeah, they were reasonable.
Yeah.
There were people that weren't happy with him, because I think he's a career overspender. Like, he costs too much money for how good he really is, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but he was good enough to make the Colts competitive, sort of. Otherwise, I think without Phillip Rivers, the Colts are just kind of,
Yeah. The thing with
to fill the hole, hold on. To fill the hole, they've brought in Carson Wentz.
So
we're both making the same face of discomfort.
This is a bad move for everyone involved. For the Eagles, they still have to absorb his money against the cap, because the Colts aren't going to pay him the same contract.
Mm-hmm. It's a big contract too.
Yeah, that's going to cost them a lot of money against the cap next year. I think it's the record for the highest dead money against the cap, which shows how desperate they were willing to get rid of Carson Wentz. The Colts have given a second rounder and a third rounder up for him, as well as getting Carson Wentz, who's going to demand a pretty hefty contract. I don't know how that conversation's going. Hopefully the Colts can get him in a position where it's cheap. But from the reaction of Colts fans, Eagle fans are perfectly happy, because they're like, we've got rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Colts fan would have rather shit in their hands and clap. None of the Colts are happy about this. Even Pat McAfee, who basically runs a Colt fan podcast, effectively. It's an NFL podcast, but he's a big Colt fan. Even he was like, we don't really want him. Even no one wanted to be given this guy. Because even when he was with the Eagles, he very quickly proved that he was not the reason that team was winning. And the year they won their Super Bowl was the year that he got injured after 8 games.
Well, yeah, Big Dick Nick came in and whoo.
And then a backup took them the rest of the way.
Right.
That, for me, at that point as a QB, you go, shit.
Well, I'll give you some numbers here. So to put this into perspective, the Eagles spent 5 draft picks to acquire Carson Wentz in 2016 and then subsequently gave him a $128 million contract 20 months ago. So about, just over 2 years ago. Just under 2 years ago, I guess. So, but then in this trade, they're taking on a cap hit in excess of $33 million. So that's the dead cap that Gavin's talking about, to essentially get out of this contract and get a 3rd round pick and a 2020 conditional 2nd round pick, which the condition is this becomes a 1st round pick if Wentz plays at least 70% of the plays in a Colts uniform and they go to the playoffs. So Wentz has to play 70% of the season and the Colts have to make the playoffs for that pick to become a 1st round pick. Now, the likelihood, from my perspective, of that happening,
the likelihood of Wentz playing 70% of a season is the funny bit.
Well, I think the likelihood of the Colts going to the playoffs is the funny bit for me. I think Carson will, if he's healthy, he'll probably play 75% of the snaps for the Colts next year.
Yeah.
But go to the playoffs?
I mean, look, to me, Carson Wentz is a middling to average QB. He's not the best in the world. He's not the worst in the world. I'm sure.
I'll give you some more numbers, Gavin, before you go on. He was given so Wentz by QB tendencies. Here's some more numbers here. So Wentz invited pressure by holding onto the ball longer than average in 2020, leading to insufficient play. He struggled most notably on extended dropbacks with a league-leading 40 sacks and losing negative 89 yards, 27 more than any other quarterback. So that's when he drops back to pass, he keeps dropping back and lost 89, almost 90 yards, which was 27 more than any other quarterback in the league. It took him almost 3 seconds on average to throw a ball, which was 31st in the league. So one of the bottom. And then he was league worst in quick pass rate at just 38%, pressure rate at 32%, and EPA, and the drop back at negative 0.21%, or at negative 0.21, sorry. So his accuracy also plummeted to a career low completion percentage of less than 58%. So he was the worst quarterback in the league last season.
So the thing for me, and why I can understand why Colts fans are not happy, is that you could have drafted a QB better than this.
This is a very good draft.
There are QBs out there that you could have had at your starter that would have been better.
Right.
Fitzmagic was available. Who, depends what side of the bed he rolls out on, but he's a good QB. Who's the Browns' backup? Minneapolis Miracle. Case Keenum. Case Keenum is available. I mean, there's all these guys that the thing for me that I don't get is that Case Keenum is as good as a quarterback as Carson Wentz, if not better.
Right.
And has proven that 1, he can stay healthy for a season. 2, he's been in the league long enough to basically make any offensive system work. And 3, shown that when you put him in a postseason situation, he can play well. Now, he at the moment is costing $5 million a year. So you could have brought him in from Cleveland, doubled his contract, doubled it, put in whatever stipulations that you wanted, I mean, basically, I think if you turn around to him and said, you're going to definitely be a starter for the next year, he'd be happy.
Yeah.
And then you could have put in whatever stipulation you want. And then you've got at least another £20 million to play with offensive weapons. It's what the Titans have done. The Titans have been able to put Ryan Tannehill in a corner where they go, you are not starting QB, but you are good enough for what we need in the system we play in. So Ryan Tannehill isn't paid millions and millions of pounds a year. I think he's on about 15. But that means that they've got 15 million pounds a year to play Derrick Henry to take people's jobs away from them.
So Carson Wentz is being paid by the Colts $25.4 million. That is his cap hit for the Colts. So then there's the $33 million that's still with the Eagles.
I mean, the only winner from this is that Carson Wentz is somehow going to get $50 million this year.
Right. And the Colts, so their total cap hit, the Colts' total cap hit is $148.898 million, basically. So that fills up 77% of their cap, which isn't bad. It's not bad.
No, you've got some money to play with. But
got a bit of money to play with.
You looked out on the vast savannah of possible QB projects this year.
And you've also got $255,000 in dead cap. So This brings your cap totals to the adjusted salary cap is $193 million, which means their total cap space is $53 million, $53.9 million, basically. So there's some wiggle room there.
Yeah, but
so now it depends for me on what they do with that $53 million.
If you run you could run a kind of Cleveland situation with that, or you could run a kind of Tennessee situation with that, where you know that your QB is not good enough to be the winner.
Really what they need is some wide receivers, because their highest paid wide receiver gets $1.95 million. That's it.
Okay. But I get you invest all of that 50 million in the run game.
Yeah.
Do you really want Carson Wentz throwing that much?
Well, I want him to throw it a bit, and I think I would want somebody I want somebody who's getting paid more than 1.95 million catching it.
Yeah. The other person that I've just remembered that we need to talk about, because this was brought to my attention today. So the cap this year is 180 million, yes?
Sure.
Next year.
Is it?
It's 180 million because it's not going up. Do you know how much Ben Roethlisberger is going to cost the Steelers next year to keep him? £180 million cap.
Too much.
41 million.
Whew. It's a lot.
You telling me you're still keeping him when his last game he threw 3 interceptions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are $14 million over the cap right now.
Yeah. So you're $14 million over, and you've got 40 million that you could free up like that.
Yeah.
And then you've got 25 million in free cap space.
To be precise, Ben Roethlisberger's exact cap hit is $41.25 million.
You think they're still staying with Big Ben next year now, Jared?
Wow, and you have a defensive end that's getting paid $14.9 million? Holy cow.
Speaking of defensive ends, a lot of people are coming round to my way of thinking, which is that JJ is going to end up in Cleveland.
Well, that's what's being posted, and apparently he's seriously considering it.
It's because they are the only team that meets his criteria.
Right. They're a young team that's ready to win now.
Yeah, they're a young team that's ready to win now that can afford him.
They have $29 million in cap space.
Yeah. So you can give a JJ on the end of his career 10, 15 million a year, which is a lot less than he's worth, and he can play. And he's in a team that went to the postseason. They lost to the best team in football in that division.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation for me would be, JJ, look, we need more defensive line pressure. We're going to get these other guys to deal with the cornerback situation. We think that with you, we could beat the Chiefs. I mean, if he wins the championship game, he's gone further than he ever did with the Texans. So, right. And they were one game away from that.
Well, and I'm just looking at some of these teams, and what I'm understanding is that if you don't have some sort of receiver that's paid well, you're not winning.
No.
Like the two top paid players on the Browns are wide receivers.
Let me guess, Odell and Jarvis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's they have to extend Baker, but they have to extend his rookie contract. And that's a extension that he basically has to sign because there's no way that he's not staying in Cleveland.
Well, and if I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm looking at this team. I'm looking at the potential to bring in one of, if not the best defensive linemen in the league.
Yep.
And I'm looking at a contract like Tom Brady's, which is $28.375 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, maybe I'll take 25.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that we can win. And I'll take 25 for a little bit now because I understand that the pandemic's going on and there's all these other outside factors.
And also, I think the conversation, sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, I was just going to say a bit down the road because I think younger quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, like Baker Mayfield, like these guys, I think are a lot more confident in their long-term health, like Tom Brady always has been, than guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, who all have these massive contracts. Because I don't think they thought they were maybe going to play quite as long as they did.
And I think as well, part of this is that you sit them down in the meeting and go, Baker, we're going to pay you less now. But by paying you less now, we keep Jarvis and Odell.
Mm-hmm. Because we can win more now and in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not Baker Mayfield. I'm not in his head. But if I was a QB and you said to me, you can keep the two most talented wide receivers in the league, and your offensive strategy is throw it up and watch them go and get it, because Odell will come back next year. He's in contract with the Browns, coming off an injury, which has always been good years for him. And he's going to have a year's more connection with it. You know, the offensive system works now. They've proven to win. If you get a guy like JJ in that locker room to kind of help with the change of attitude, because he's a guy that will fit, and then maybe you get a guy that's been there, like I think a Richard Sherman or someone like that, because they're very young at cornerback. They're a very young team.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as you have the guys saying, let's go do this, let's go do this, you've not got the guys like JJ who have seen, okay, we need to take this to the next level. And then the guys like Richard Sherman who have been in Super Bowls and lost them that can go, no, we need to take this to the next level. And also, I think the phrase iron sharpens iron is always the best thing in the world. If Odell and Jarvis are in practice and they are going against, and Baker as well, because he's got to throw them, and they're going against young cornerbacks who aren't that experienced, it's not testing them. But if you bring in an experienced guy like Sherman, or maybe someone else in the cornerback market, that is going to make not only them better, But I think for Baker, it would be important because he's going to be able to play against a good cornerback. So he's going to be able to learn that I can't just throw the ball there. I need to throw it there, or this is how I get around that.
I think in that case, though, you would have to choose. I don't think you could bring in a Richard Sherman and a J.J. Watt because, again, you do have to make sure that you're keeping Baker happy because he's going to ask for more than $10 million.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that, JJ is going to cost money, but Richard Sherman has basically been told he's got a year or two left. So I think for him, you can bring him in on a lower contract. I don't know how low, but that would be my mindset. That would be my logic behind that.
Well, I know we're both very excited about the Browns, and I mean, J.J. Watt going to the Browns would be one of the most exciting things that's happened to the Browns. Well, again, like you can just add it on to the more exciting things that have started to happen for the Browns. This would, raise the bar, I think, even more. And we'll transition to a couple of folks that are raising the bar in the NHL before we get to our quiz. Connor McDavid scored his 500th point last night. He got an assist on a Jesse Puljujarvi goal, which was a very nice goal, by the way. 500 points in 369 games. It's the exact same amount of time it took Sidney Crosby to score 500 points, 369 games. This is why Connor McDavid is going to be as good, if not better. And I mean, some people already argue that Connor McDavid is better than Crosby. I will say that they are on par because I cannot disregard the extent of experience that Crosby has, the cups he has, the pedigree that he has. I mean, he's got 3 cups. That 2 of them back to back, which happens so rarely in the NHL, back to back cups. You can't disregard that. The guy's in his mid 30s now, early mid 30s. So just because he's 32 doesn't mean he's declining all of a sudden now.
No, I think that's one of the things is that what people need to understand, especially with guys like Tom Brady now, is that sports medicine has moved on so much farther that these physios have realized if we can get this guy to last 15, 20 years instead of 10 years and you can make a lot more money.
Make a lot more money. The franchise can make a lot more money. I mean, really, Sidney Crosby is one of the saviors of the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise because they were god awful in the early 2000s. So much so to the point where they were not getting enough money and Pittsburgh was in danger of being moved. That's how bad they were. And they drafted Crosby. 2006, by the way, was his first game in the NHL. It's 2021. So 16 seasons in the league. I mean, this guy's phenomenal. So, but I've got off topic because we are talking about McDavid, who already is incredible, is going to be incredible. I saw already people asking, who's winning the race for the Hart Trophy right now, Connor McDavid or Auston Matthews? As fantastic as Auston Matthews is right now for the Leafs, it's still Connor McDavid to me. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are responsible for, I don't have the precise number in front of me, but it is a large percentage of the Edmonton Oilers offense. And yes, Auston Matthews is also responsible for a large number of or a large percentage of the Toronto Maple Leafs offense, but that's what you want in a sense. But you also want the depth to contribute, and Toronto's depth is contributing much more than Edmonton's depth. And I sound like a broken record because I keep saying it on different podcasts, but the Edmonton Oilers are just not a good enough team.
Whoa, go back there. You do different podcasts?
I do.
You're cheating on this podcast.
I mean, we don't talk about hockey enough on this podcast.
Bella!
Don't worry. This is like the first.
Me.
It's like the first hockey episode.
Jared is cheating on me. Yeah, he's doing other podcasts.
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It
Anyway,
sounds like she doesn't care. The Edmonton Oilers are just not good enough to make a long run in the playoffs. They may make them this year because Conor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are phenomenal, but the depth is just not there. You have 41-year-old Mike Smith and subpar below league average Mikko Koskinen as your tandem goaltenders. Like you got embarrassed by the Chicago Blackhawks. Like,
whenever you say the word tandem goaltenders, to me, that is a concerning thing to say.
Well, in hockey, you do want a tandem.
Huh?
In hockey, you do want to be able to rely on multiple.
You want to be able to rely on them, but in most teams, are you telling me there's not a number one and a number two?
Yes.
Yeah. So that either tells me that the coach isn't confident enough to make the decision of a number one or a number two, or they're both equally as terrible and inconsistent. So we can't decide.
The latter statement is correct.
Yeah. It's not a situation of we've got two guys that are so good. Let's play one and off another, and you get that natural competitiveness that one of them wants to be the number one. It's that you've got two guys that aren't good enough, and you're going, well, maybe we'll try this.
And the general manager said, well, we're going to bring them back this year because we liked what they did. And I was like, you liked what they did? You liked that they threw away the series in the play-in round against the 23rd place team in the league?
Do you know what that means to me? That means that he's got both of them under contracts that are so difficult to get out of.
Well, no, he re-signed both. He re-signed them.
Dumb. Well, then he's just dumb.
It blew my mind that that's what's happened. And people...
Are they perhaps dating his daughters?
I don't know. I don't know if Ken Holland has daughters. I don't know what Ken Holland's family situation is, but regardless, I see Edmonton Oiler fans defending their team all the time. And it blows my mind that you can look at a team like this that is so one-dimensional and go, oh, but they're good enough. And they're going to make the playoffs. Okay, they might make the playoffs. And then how much of the weight can Conor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl shoulder? We already saw it in the play-in round. Not enough of it.
I think the thing as well is that there is a lot of teams that are good enough to make the playoffs. There's a lot of teams that made the NFL playoffs. What we saw, that the problem is that when you're a one-dimensional team, if someone figures out that dimension, you're screwed. And that's what's happened with... sorry to bring this back to the NFL. That's what's happened with the Ravens. Because they go, oh, they want to run the football. Lamar wants to run the football. Let's take that away.
Kansas City. 65% of their offense.
Yeah. Kansas City. Oh, they like to throw to these two people. Let's take those away. When you take away something from one-dimensional team, they lose. Simple as that.
And what's going to happen is the Canadian teams are going to figure out the best way to shut down Conor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It happens in games. You see it already. And when that happens, they do not score anywhere the same amount than when McDavid and Draisaitl are rolling. And it's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, we had it in a UH hockey, a UH lacrosse game once. I don't think you were there. So we had one guy who basically, this was in my second year, so you definitely weren't there. The way he would score was, he was a big dude. He was 6'5". I was in goal, which, I mean, I was a fairly decent goalie. I was 60% over the year, which is pretty good. And what he would do was he would run through our defense until he was stood on the outside line of my goal. about 3 foot away, and he would basically dunk it in from about a foot away.
Right.
And he was scoring. And when the team said, "Why is he scoring?" I went, "Because I've got a 6 foot by 6 foot goal to protect, and he's running into my face."
And just going.
Yeah. And I would block some of them.
Right.
But others, I'd be like, "Oh, he's going here. No, fuck, missed it. Fuck." So what we did was John walked up to the guy, stood nose to nose with him, and shadowed him for the rest of the game. Because I went, "John, I can stop," because their other guys would shoot from like 30 yards out. And I went, "If you give me a shot from 30 yards out, I see that coming. I know what I'm going to do with that. But if you're in front of me, I'm not going to be able to deal with that." So John stood in front of him and just basically made it so that no one could pass to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, "John, that guy." And he went, "What?" Went, "Take him out of the game."
Okay.
So, huh? And I went, "Stand in front of him so he can't get the ball."
Bless him. We love John.
At one point, they were stood like 50 yards behind the goal, and the guy was just stood there like, "I'm not going to get the ball from here." And John was like, "Nope, can it still stand in front of you?"
No, you're not. Because
No,
I'm
you're not.
John. And I'm going to just prevent that. Right. To wrap it up, Auston Matthews has 16 goals, leading the goal scoring in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And he has scored in, I believe it's six. Well, I believe it's, he's got, I've just lost the stat. He's got his 16 goals in
games.
I believe it's 14 consecutive games, I think.
Okay.
So, but he has gone 17 consecutive games with a point now.
Mm-hmm.
16 or 17. And the record for a Maple Leaf is 18 consecutive games. So he's very close to beating that record. And some people say, "Oh, well, he missed a couple of games early in the season." And apparently, when it's a franchise record, it's games you have played for the franchise in a row. And it doesn't include games that you're injured for. If you get scratched, then your streak ends because you could have been in the lineup, but you weren't. If you could not have been in the lineup, that doesn't count. But in the NHL, as a league, it does. I don't understand why there's a differentiation, because the NHL is weird.
Yep.
But for some reason, there is that differentiation. Regardless, we can have our quizmaster come on now.
Yep. Have you invited her? I haven't done that.
I have sent her the link, so she can come on at any time now. I guess I'd better send her something. But just to continue on about Auston Matthews, and specifically, I mean, last night's game, Auston Matthews 2 goals and at least 1 assist. I think he might have had 2 assists by the end of the night, because the Leafs just destroyed the Ottawa Senators 7-3. That line in general, the Matthews, Marner, and Joe Thornton line, was spectacular.
They're playing well. Definitely playing.
They were on fire last night. Marner had a phenomenal game, was just disrespectful on his goal. It was insane. Totally undresses the guy in front of the net and then picks the inside corner that had about this much room between the post and the goalie's helmet. It's literally the width of a puck.
Yeah.
A little bit extra maybe. And he just shoved it right in there.
Yep. Can put it where he wants it.
Literally.
Bell replied to you.
Pardon?
Has Belle replied? Is she joining?
Yes. The quizmaster has arrived.
Quiz master, quiz master, quiz master.
Are you done?
Yarp.
That was it was an interesting theme. Did you
Yeah.
dye your hair, Belle?
No, I just spontaneously, just went red.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
It's very true.
Sometimes you just become a ginger. I don't know. It's happens. And I've
Shit,
broken
my
everyone.
headphones always fell off.
I've broken everyone. Right. You have a
Is that
quiz
how that
for us.
happens? Yes, I have a quiz, and I feel this is very heavy in your area of expertise.
Well, yes.
So next time I am going to let Gavin decide what the theme of the quiz would be.
That is fair.
And before we start, I apologize if I butcher any person's name, any sport team's name, or anything like that. I'm sorry, I am British. Ice hockey is not something we do often here. It's
Likely
not a
I can
major
help you
sport
with that.
like it is in Canada. So I apologize from the get-go if I butcher anyone's name. So, without
Likely
further
I can
ado,
help you with
are
that.
you
All
both
right.
ready?
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Gavin's still recovering from his inappropriate name, which I will be blurring.
Have you recovered, Gavin?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome. We will begin. So it is an ice hockey quiz. So ice hockey to anyone from Britain, hockey if you're in Canada. So as legend has it, when hockey was played in its early days, frozen what was used as the puck? Horse poop, cow poop, moose poop, human poop.
I gotta move the Zoom tab.
Right, you gotta hurry up. Ooh, only one of you got that right.
Gavin, you really thought it was human feces?
I don't know. Canadian. Strange. Sorry. At what point was the jump where you went, oh, we can't use human poop, but cow poop, that's fine.
Well, because there's big open fields with big cows that take a massive dump and then it freezes and it's flat.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the logic is there.
Okay, next. I'm already not
Next.
doing.
True or false? The Pittsburgh Penguins once had a live penguin as their mascot that was named Slapshot Steve. True or false? Ooh, halfway. It was false. It was actually called Slapshot Pete.
Oh, wow. That was a trick question and a half. I just didn't think they had a penguin.
I thought the Miami Dolphins
No.
got hold of a dolphin at one point. I'm sure the Pittsburgh whatever could have got hold of a penguin.
Yeah, they did have a mascot penguin, but it was called Slapshot Pete.
So technically, Gavin got that question more right than I did. Even though he got it wrong.
I got the name
I mean,
wrong.
are you complaining, Jared?
No.
There we go then. Question 3. Which of the following has their name misspelt on the Stanley Cup?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Ooh, both of you got it right. So I did give you a 50-50 chance on this one. Both the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins have their names misspelt. I'm going to do my best to pronounce these. So instead of the...
But how do you do that twice?
The Stanley Cup's very old and people had to do it by hand.
I mean, that's fair, Jared, but with these spellings I'm about to give you, that may change your perception. So instead of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they are the Toronto Maple Lees, spelled Leaes. And the Boston Bruins, I don't even know what the person was doing. It is BQSTQN. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that.
Bokotquin.
Yeah, Bokotquin. Something like that.
No, I'll put something out here. Now, I'm dyslexic, and I couldn't. But also, if your job is engraving names on trophies and you're a bit blasé with your spelling, you can just ask people to write it down. Or before you start carving it into the metal, you just go, Doris, can you just call that hockey team and just check the spelling?
Does this look right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there are others. Those are just two that I picked out. So before
Oh, and
anyone...
there's tons of names of players misspelt too.
Yeah. So before anyone picks at me, these are just the two that I selected. Gavin has some points. And Eileen has a streak going on of 3 out of 3 so far. So question 4. In 1991, the NHL's first outdoor game was held in Las Vegas, Nevada. During the third period, there was an invasion of what? Rabbits, moose, geese, or grasshoppers?
Okay.
Correct. It is grasshoppers. Apparently, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of grasshoppers flooded the field in the third period, sorry.
I mean, strippers was my first guess, if I'm honest.
But that wasn't an option.
No, but that's why I went to grasshoppers, because geese in Nevada, meh. Moose in Nevada, eh. Rabbits, eh. Grasshoppers, meh.
There are geese in Nevada.
Maybe I should have put scorpions instead.
Unhappy geese.
It's warm. Why would they be
Geese.
unhappy?
Because they're geese. They like it cold.
Not really. All the Canadian geese fly south for the winter. There's no Canadian geese in Canada right now.
We're really having this argument.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This is the hill that you want to stand on, bud.
I hate them. They can stay down south for all I care.
Why do you hate them?
Because they're aggressive, violent, shit everywhere,
Oh,
all
mate,
over my dogs.
were you never introduced to white geese? In
Oh,
Britain?
yeah, they're everywhere too, but Canadian geese are worse.
No. I mean the ones that are here. Like, they are aggressive on another level.
Guys, with the best will in the world, this is one of our first podcasts on Spotify and a sports podcast.
Third.
Can we not have an extended conversation about geese?
Very
we can
well.
have a separate podcast about geese.
If a team's 2 goalies are injured during a game, the rules state that anybody can play in the position, including a fan. True or false? Ooh, it is true, so long as they are inside the arena at the time.
Now, they are considering changing this rule because of the emergency backup goalie incident in Toronto, when both Carolina Hurricane goaltenders were injured, so they had to bring in David Ayers, the 45-year-old emergency backup goaltender, and the Leafs still lost the game. But general managers were upset about it either way, because they were like, well, if the Leafs had won the game, then they would have won the game because they were facing a 42-year-old Zamboni driver.
Pretty good for him.
You couldn't win either way there.
No, it was a lose-lose. So that's why they want to change the subject.
Today, hockey pucks are frozen before a game to prevent them from bouncing during play. True or false? It is true. Well done, both of you.
Yeah, we do that with the Burlington Barracudas as well.
Did you have like a fridge you put them in?
Freezer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get put in an ice box to go on the bench.
Fair enough.
What year was the National Hockey League founded? I can see Gavin's brain working. Well done, both of you. It is 1917 that the National Hockey League was founded.
You know what I did? I had no idea. So I put my thumb on my phone. And I did that, and whatever it came up with was what I got.
Well, good job, because that's correct.
Thanks,
Well
buddy.
done. Well done, guys.
Have a biscuit.
Gavin's catching up. But will he overtake?
This is with the best will in the world. This is a quiz about Jared's obsession.
Yes, but it's also random facts. Although, saying that, he has got a streak of 7 at the moment.
He knows everything about hockey.
Who has won the most Stanley Cups in league history with 23 wins? It is the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to presume that was you, Jared.
Yes. My mum will be very
With a
happy
streak
that you
of
put
8.
that in.
Is she a Montreal Canadian fan?
Yes.
Ooh. Does that cause rivalry in the family? Because you're Toronto Maple Leafs, right?
No, I respect the Habs.
Fair dues. Fair dues. What is the diameter of a hockey puck in inches? You are not allowed to look at the one on your desk.
Cheating. By default, I should win.
It is 3 inches. I'm proud of you both for not making any innuendos.
I think you got less. I think I got less points anyways, Gav. I've got like
taking
3
more time.
here.
Why have you got 3?
Well, because one of them's for when I went to the World Juniors while I was in Finland.
Fair enough.
The other one's from when I went to the Winter Classic in 2014.
Okay, so they're like souvenirs.
And this one's the Hamilton Bulldogs when they played their black and gold game for the Hamilton Tiger Cats back in 2004.
Okay, so they're more like souvenirs than actual, like, just random hockey pucks.
I mean, I have random hockey pucks as well because I go out and skate with them. But, you know, I'm not going to take one of those souvenir pucks out and slap it around a
No,
rink.
I wouldn't expect you to. I would not expect you to. So where is the Hockey Hall of Fame located? Yeah, Toronto. I would expect you both to get that, particularly you, Gavin, as you did go to Toronto.
Walk past it.
Yeah, we didn't go in it because it's expensive.
Is it expensive?
Yeah, it's very
Like
expensive.
for everyone
yeah.
who's non-Canadian.
No, it's expensive. It's like $80 a ticket or something.
Jesus Christ.
And
Yeah, no, it's a lot.
Busts
Right.
and memorabilia.
Goalies cannot touch the puck when it is on the opposite side of the center line. True or false? It is true. Well done. Proud of you, Gavin.
Thank you.
You see goalies skating around the whole ice surface with
How
their team.
many women have their name engraved on the Stanley Cup? 12,
Right, why
18,
do you know
8,
that
or
picture?
0? It was the first woman picture that I could find. Sorry.
Oh,
Oh, who voted for 0?
Gavin.
Guilty as charged. It is 12. 12 women have their names engraved on the Stanley Cup, not as players, but as owners or as... I didn't write it down. Crap.
Probably
As team executives.
Yeah,
Team
executives,
I did write it down.
builders, owners.
Yeah, as owners or team executives. There are 12 women on the Stanley Cup. So no points that round. I'm disappointed in both of you, gotta say. In what year was the final maskless ice hockey game played? It is 1974.
2000, Gav.
I don't know.
To be fair, some sports don't change their rules until something horrific happens, and most of
That's
those are
hockey.
recent.
Hockey does that.
But yeah, well done, Jared.
Goaltenders. There was a goaltender that almost lost their eye, and they finally went, maybe you should wear a mask.
Well, yeah, because they just used to use a sheet of plastic across the face.
They used to use nothing, Gav.
Yeah, maskless.
Yeah. And then Ken Dryden Jacques Plante was like, oh, maybe we'll do that.
Moving on, the most NHL records held by any player is 31, 51, 81, 61.
Sorry, I booped my phone too hard.
Ooh, neither of you got that right. It is 61 by Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, Gretzky just has everything.
Yes, 61 records, folks. 61.
You just won't die.
I didn't really think there were 61 records to have. 61 stats.
Apparently.
61 different statistics to hold a record in one sport.
I think one of them is just like when you like it's why Tom Brady is getting some. Like he's got the oldest player to ever play an NFL game. It's just like, yeah, because otherwise, unless they go get a pensioner, no one's gonna beat him.
It's a bad point, Matt. Right. Question 15. Ice hockey is great for weight loss. In an average ice hockey game, players can lose on average 5 to 10 pounds, 8 to 12 pounds, 2 to 8 pounds, or 3 to 5 pounds. Yeah. Oh, neither of you got that right.
I mean, it's in pounds. I don't know pounds.
I'm sorry, it's not in kilos, but it is in pounds.
To me.
Yeah, well, kilos doesn't mean anything to us.
5 to 10 pounds.
Sorry.
5 to 10 pounds.
The rest of the world.
What?
Use the metric system like the rest of the world.
We do.
But now, can we just appreciate that for a second? 5 to 10 pounds in a single hockey game. That's insane.
That's why I like refereeing and not traditionally working out. Because I'm skating the whole game.
Evidently, I'm in the wrong sport. I need to take up ice hockey. How many players are allowed on the ice at any one time? 5, 6, 8, or 11?
Well, now, this could be a trick question here.
Is this each team?
Yes. And I apologize if I've gotten this wrong. Now, Jared's sowing the seed of doubt in my head.
Okay, you are including the goalie.
Yes, I am including the goalie.
Okay. Because goalies... Okay, yeah, no, you're right. Players.
Kevin. Be fooled by the 11.
11?
Well, it doesn't say for each team.
She said individually when you asked.
Oh, I wasn't listening. Sorry.
See, I interpreted players as skaters, and there's only 5 skaters, but one and a goalie.
Yeah, but a goalie counts
players.
as a player.
Yeah.
They're on the same team.
Yeah. That's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I accept the loss.
You two are salty. What significant change was introduced in the 1960s? Pucks were made of rubber, steel was added to the bottom of skates, sticks became curved, or masks were made mandatory. I like the faces that you're pulling, Jared.
Yes. It was that sticks became curved.
Yeah, you used to play with straight sticks.
Mm-hmm.
That boggles my mind.
My
honestly.
mom made me play with a straight stick in my first year of hockey because she was like, you need to learn how to shoot with a straight stick before you get a curved stick because it helps.
I mean, surely that just makes shooting with a curved stick easier.
It ultimately did, but I felt really dumb because I was the only kid on the ice with a straight stick. And it was wood
straight,
as well.
Are they meaning the end piece?
The blade.
Yeah, straight. All of it, straight.
I wish I had my stick in here because I could show you.
You still have it?
Yeah, I have multiple sticks.
Okay.
You need to make a note, Jared. Like, bring it next time. Show us the straight stick.
Oh, I don't have the straight stick. I was going to say I could show you the curved blade, though.
Yeah.
Really?
Have you still got the one that you bought for me?
Yeah, it's at the house.
Okay.
Right. To the nearest decade, how many years older is the Stanley Cup than the NFL, so the National Football League?
Just going with speed now. Yes.
It is
Speed.
30. So it is actually 29 years older than the NFL, so 30 being the closest.
Well, the NFL started in like the 50s.
Yeah, but they didn't have a Super Bowl.
No, the NFL was actually established in 1922. It actually was in 1920s, but then it was renamed to the NFL as we know it in 1922.
Yeah, but it wasn't the same. That's wishy-washy.
Weren't the Raiders not part of it, but they used to play games?
I
Well,
don't
I
know,
mean, a
maybe
lot
that's
that happened
something
a
I
lot.
can include in the next time.
That happened a lot in sports. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that won the Stanley Cup that weren't in the NHL. Because the Stanley Cup used to be the trophy that you won as the best ice hockey team in North America from all around. It didn't.
Before the
It didn't
NHL
used to
took
be
over.
just the trophy for the NHL.
Hockey fans in Detroit throw what onto the ice when the Red Wings score during the playoffs? Fish, oysters, crabs, or octopus? Gavin, I was with you. I'm with you on this one. That is the exact same face I made.
They
But
don't
not
do
to
it
my
anymore
knowledge,
because it's
they-
animal.
to
They
my
don't do
knowledge,
it
they-
anymore because it's animal cruelty.
Because it's animal cruelty, yeah.
To my knowledge, they
Yeah.
could throw pigs' anuses onto the field.
It's octopus.
I'll just throw
It
an
is
octopus.
octopus.
I have
With
multiple.
great difficulty.
One, how do you collect an octopus? Like, how do you go, oh, I'm going to get some octopuses?
Well,
And-
you go
Right.
to the aquarium and buy one, and then yuck it
Right,
onto the
Gavin,
ice.
I will explain this to you in the best way that I can. Please, I am British. I do not play ice hockey, but to the best of my understanding, in the old days, you had to win by 8 clear games, if I'm right, Jared.
What's that?
You had to win by 8 clear games or 8 points to win the Stanley Cup. In the old days.
Series differed based on what year it was, who was playing. All kinds
Anyway,
of
it was
stuff.
8-something. It was 8-something, and a pair of fishmonger brothers decided to throw an octopus onto the ice ring as they had 8 arms to signify the 8 points or games. Maybe our viewers can tell us which one it is.
Probably
I apologize for whichever it is, and that just started a trend until obviously they stopped it due to animal cruelty. I'm completely with you on this one, Gavin.
If
It's
I'm honest,
very, very
There
strange.
was a guy for years in Detroit. There was literally a guy that would walk out before every Wings game with a bucket, and he'd roll his sleeve up and dip his hand in and pull out an octopus and swing it around his head like this to get the crowd excited. Don Cherry got to pick up the octopus, and like there's a clip of him like picking up the octopus and waving it. Yeah.
if I'm honest, I'm just figuring out if someone presented me with a bucket with an octopus in it and went, throw that.
No,
Bro,
pick it up and
Dan-
swing it around above your head.
No, throw that from the stands into an ice rink. I'm just thinking how I would do that. Because do you go with the legs? Because then you got to try and get 8 legs together.
No. You pick it up by the head and just yuck it.
No,
if you
because then I think you're gonna have legs going everywhere. I think you've got to get each. You got to get every leg. You get every leg, and then because then, like aerodynamics, the heads are gonna go first, which means
Well,
the rest.
the legs will
are
stick
behind
to
it.
you.
No, not if you.
Debating on how to throw an octopus correctly.
If you get them all at the end and pinch them all at the end.
Well,
'Cause then
how are
it's
you going to
effectively
throw
like
that?
swap.
Will you
Crying.
pinch
I'm
them?
crying.
Like
No. Effectively, like it. Then no, you just grab them like in a fist. Because then you've got I'm thinking
but then the suction cups are going to stick to your hand, and it's
right. I'm going to
rip arms
continue
off
this
and
onto
stuff.
the last question to break this up. How tall was the original Stanley Cup? 1 foot, 2 feet, 7 inches, 14 inches. I'm still crying.
Yes.
Hey, 7 inches.
Whew.
Oh, yeah. If I'm honest, I was imagining the one that they help people hold above their heads.
Yeah, no, that's not the original.
I thought
Original.
No, okay.
The original was just the bowl.
Don't give me the look. I'm starting with the best information that I've got.
It's fair.
I take it they just add on ring kind of thing.
They literally
write
take
everyone's
strips off.
names. They have to write everyone's names on it, so it just keeps growing.
Okay.
So there's various different Stanley Cups in the Hall of Fame. The original bowl is no longer used. It sits in the hall. And then there's different sections of strips that have been removed from the cup because they can't make it any taller than it is now. So every time they fill up the bottom, they remove an old strip and move it all up and put a new strip around the bottom and start filling that in.
I think that's the wrong choice. I think they should just continue to make it taller.
It would be 2 stories tall at this point, Gav.
Brilliant. Imagine then
that wouldn't work though.
Huh?
That wouldn't work though, because every player gets the right to have the Stanley Cup for a day. What do you do with a 2-story tall cup? You can't eat cereal or hot dogs or shit out of that.
You can't bring that into the building.
Play the world's most dominant game of beer pong.
I wonder if anyone's done that. Surely.
Oh, absolutely. People drink out of the cup all the time.
That's the same.
But have they played beer pong?
Probably.
No, it's the same. That's the same reason that there is a hole in every single Formula One trophy. Because the old ones didn't have holes in them, and people used to drink out of them. Even the trophies that I won had holes in the bottom because people used to drink out of the bottom of them, and then there would be a cup with stale alcohol in the bottom, and it would corrode the trophy.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. So we used to just plug our thumb over the hole.
Right. Continuing.
Jared won a hockey.
You got 8 out of 20. But Jared with 15 out of 20 did win that quiz. Only 15 out of 20, Jared.
How is that even a surprise?
Well, yeah, some of them tripped me up. The players on the ice tripped me up because I was I had other words in my head about skaters and goaltenders and all that stuff. And then there was just a couple that I genuinely didn't know.
I've got a question for you, Jared, before we end the podcast, because we're getting a warning at the top of the screen that we need to end the podcast. When it says people on the ice, does that mean a skater with his feet on the ice?
Yeah.
Because quite often you'll have players sat the other side of the thing and they don't jump down until the other guy comes off.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
It's like when you make a substitution in lacrosse, you can't get onto the field until the other person's got off.
What you mean, when I ran up to the goal and it went sub and everyone else was looking in the other direction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were just stood at the bench and nobody did anything.
Just went.
Yeah.
Do you remember that time I just got sent off the rest of the way? I ran up to the bench and Bobby watched me run up and no one was ready.
Yeah.
And he just keep going. And I was just in attack with a deep hole.
Yeah. And you were like, okay.
And I just ran in, and basically John looked at me and went, "What are you doing?" And I went, "Bobby said to come." And he went, "Do you know any of the offense?" And I went, "Nope." And he went,
For anyone watching who isn't familiar with lacrosse, an attack pole is maybe 3 foot long with a net on the end. A deep pole is 6 foot long with a net on the end. Yeah. So running around with a deep pole it's a feat.
He basically yelled at me. He went, "We're rotating." So I said, "Cool." And I basically passed the ball off to him and then rotated through. At one point, I was at X.
With the deep ball.
What am I going to do here?
just lob it over the goal.
The point where I went, this isn't really working, was when they went, right, rotate to the front of goal, and I ran in, and the two other defenders looked at me and went, "What are you doing?" And I went, "I don't know."
I'm just here, guys.
Was this in your first year?
No, this was third year. This was an away game.
Yeah, this was
Yeah,
I was there for this.
I was gonna say, if you were a fresher, then yeah.
Basically, my purpose on the field was I was the LSM, so I was a defensive midfielder. That when we were transitioning to midfield, I would stay on. I would sprint on in replace of an attacking midfielder, so that we had an extra pop. There were a few times where I got the ball and I took the initiative and I ran upfield. But basically, the way it was explained to me by Bobby was, unless you run up the field on a fast break and the goalie is having a nap, pass it off to an attacker and get out of dodge, because you are just too big and cumbersome and it's just not going to work. There is a reason those sticks are so big. They're difficult, it's cumbersome, you can't dodge, you can't move or anything like that. I took 4 shots in my entire LSM career. None of them went in. I just want that on record. All 4 were on target. None of them went in. But after every single one, Bobby pulled me to one side and went, "Don't do that again." At which point, Jared would giggle and go, "You're going to do it again, right?" And I went, yeah. Including the one which was from the halfway line.
Oh, yeah, you just yucked it downfield, and I went, it's a good one.
I did that once. That was a jammy shot, to the point where Bobby turned around and went, "That was dirty. That was jammy." Because if I threw it at the ground and it bounced through the defender's legs into the goal.
Yeah, Bobby just told me not to do it.
It was jammy.
It was on target, and the ref caught it, and the goalie caught it, to which I went, and Bobby went, "No." But yeah, he was just so fed up of me. Basically, we'd be running the ball upfield, and everyone would be so concentrating on the ball going upfield that I would run to our substitution bench, come to an immediate stop, expecting to cross the line and someone go off. And I would get there and no one would be ready to go on.
Because everybody's watching the offense like, "Ooh, are we going to score a goal?"
Yeah.
No, the team is so much better now. Probably because, yeah.
It's a very disappointing thing to hear.
Look, I will say something that not many people
Did you ever play a game sober? Not
Yes.
hungover?
Yeah.
I did
We were
not
the
play
sober
not
game.
so. I did not play not sober, because that's just a terrible experience.
We played, apart from Blues Fest, we played every game sober. I just want to point out that in my 3 years of playing for University of Hertfordshire lacrosse, I was a starter and first string in my position for all 3 years.
And I then took over in goal when Jacob got the mumps.
Yeah. Which was quite funny, because I was used to you being the other end of the field. And then at one point I was in defense, doing what I did on defense. And I ran past goal and you just went, "Hey, bud." And I went, "Yeah."
Well, and there was definitely another time where you tried to block a shot, missed it, and I got scored on. And I was like, "Get out the way, Gav."
Yeah, I did my customary. Oh, I blocked the earlier one.
Yeah, you've blocked shots before, but there were times where you tried and missed.
We had an agreement as a defense that because it was your first game, what we would normally do is the guy would wind up for a shot, and if the game was not on the line, we all just basically did this weird jump where we made ourselves as narrow as possible. And because it was your first game, we didn't do that. Klaus took one to the throat and almost died.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then after that one, Jared, if I'm honest with you, the guy let rip and I went, "I don't want anything to do with that," and just watched it come at you at a rate of knots. And just went, "Sorry, bud."
No, you haven't seen frustration until you've seen when I defended goal. That was just...
You broke a girl's spirit.
It was funny as hell, because in women's lacrosse, you can't shoot through a person.
You basically can't do anything in women's lacrosse.
Basically. So when it was a free shot on goal, I managed to get right near goal and sprinted in front and set my position so that if she took a shot, the goal would not count and I would get the ball, which is fantastic. But you could see the anger in her face, and she verbally grunted at me and pissed off. And then our fresher goalie behind me just went, "Thanks, Belle."
That wasn't the one I was talking about. The one I was talking about when we brought Fiona, who is the athletic trainer, along, and you and Fiona were in defense, and at one point you hit a girl, and she dropped
this game.
Her back. You stood over her at waist level, so she couldn't stand up. And then Fiona, who's about your size and height, came over and stood next to you and congratulated you, and you had a conversation about how good the hit was while the girl was still on the floor.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm not gonna lie. That's
as well as the girl that bounced off me, who ran into me, and I got called for the foul, even though she ran into me and bounced off me.
We need to end the podcast.
Yeah, we do. So Belle's a tank, Gavin's a long stick, and I'm missing goals. Better luck next week to everyone. We wish better luck to all the losers, including us, because that's who we are and that's why we do this, and we have a lovely time. Thank you, everyone.
Not you this week, Jared.
We will see you next week. Yeah, no, I'm a winner this week.